following is a presentation of Divots and U.S.
You gotta will your wingtip shoes to me. You're gonna leave me those wingtip shoes in your will.
Okay, City Secretary, would you read the call, please?
Yes, sir. Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a special meeting on Monday, September 14th, 2009, at 6 p.m. in the City Commission chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas.
Okay, if you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, and face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one,
To God, one and indivisible.
one,
And indivisible.
indivisible.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
Pastor Coruba, Tommy,
Thank you. Thank you.
welcome
If
to
we
our
could,
chamber.
good to be here. If we can just pray this afternoon. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for this time that we have, that we can just gather, Lord, and conduct the business of your city. And God, I just pray, Lord, that you would just give every leader, every person, God, the wisdom, the counsel, the knowledge, the might, that which needs to be done. And Father, we just pray, Lord, the power of the blessing upon each person here, upon the city, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Item 1.
Item number 1, public hearing regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2009 and 2010.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, this is a public hearing regarding the proposed budget. The budget that we're proposing to you tonight is with a 2-cent increase, but I'm going to go over a summary of what we've done in the past, just to show you what we've covered. The effective rate that was calculated was 65.4189. If the City Commission tonight approves a tax rate without a rate increase, then you would be adopting the 65.4189, which is the effective tax rate, which in reality there is no tax increase. And if the City Commission approves a zero tax increase, that means that the deficit in the general fund would be around $1,644,912. Debt service would have, what we're doing in 2010 is that the tax that you adopt, we are going to be, actually the tax rate for debt service, if you look at this particular spreadsheet for the proposed tax rate distribution, on the right-hand bottom portion, you have the M&O rate of 38.3985 cents and the debt service rate of 27.0204. The debt service rate will continue the same with a zero tax increase, with a 1 penny increase, and with a 2-cent increase throughout. In this case, the general fund for a zero tax increase would be 38.3985. What we have done in this particular budget year for 2010 is that we realized that the debt service fund had quite a bit of a reserve estimated for 2000, at the beginning of 2010 or at the end of 2009. This particular fund was estimated to have around $3.9 million. So we knew from the start that if we would transfer less money into debt service fund, we would still be okay. And that's what we did. We took a portion of the tax rate that would normally go to debt service, we went ahead and allocated it to the general fund. This particular schedule gives you a penny increase, and in this case, the general fund M&O will be 39.85. The debt service rate would stay the same. So in other words, previously it was 39.85. Now it's 39.85. If the tax rate of 1 penny is approved tonight, we'll have a deficit of $1,169,142. With a 2-cent increase, now the general fund M&O will get a 40.39.85 allocation or distribution, and debt service obviously remains the same. With this particular change, that means that our fund balance would be $693,804. Now, there were changes from the previous meeting that we had last week. We went ahead and allocated something that we didn't have in the past. We went ahead and allocated $100,000 for beautification. So that means that by allocating $100,000 to beautification, that would lower our fund balance. And we also made some other changes. We did remove $16,250 that we talked about last week from the general fund for the zoo. That's been removed. The farmer's market and the business consultant that was changed to more or less what we paid this year, $46,000. So the deficit, a revised deficit, assuming that we get a 2-cent increase, is $693,804. If we go with a 1 penny increase, what is the annual increase on a residential homestead, assuming that and this is an average taxable value of $80,228, that means that the average citizen would pay $8.02 annually more in property taxes. If we go with a 2-cent increase, the average annual increase would be $16.05. This is a history of the tax rate that the city of Brownsville has had for the last 20 years. And as you can see, we had a high of 75.05 in 91, and all the way down to 65, and now we're proposing a 67
How much will the
increase.
2 cents generate?
A 2-cent increase, if you look at the assessed valuations, you're looking at close to 1 penny, about $495,000, $500,000.
500,000, 1 penny?
Say 500,000,
So 2 cents will generate $1 million?
$1 million. I'm going to go over now our debt. Currently, our outstanding debt is $161,698,234. But of those, $11,340,000 is self-supported. Self-supported means that $980,000 is from Paseo de la Resaca, $1,735,000 is the linear park that's being paid out of CDBG funds, $2,790,000 for the sports park that's being reimbursed to us by the BCIC, and then we have the airport improvements, the CO that was issued in 2008 of $585,380. Actually, it was $6 million. Now our balance is $5,835,000, and that's being paid out of JBIC funds. So in reality, the tax-supported debt for the city as of right now is $150,358,234. What has happened? This particular schedule shows you the debt that the city of Brownsville has issued since 1991. The first column obviously gives you the description of the series of the debt, and then then the next column shows you the total debt was issued. And the third column, I went ahead and put the growth in the property values of those particular years. In total, since 1991, the city has issued $208,853,657. Even though the city of Brownsville has issued $208,853,657 since '91, the city has maintained a tax rate between 65 cents and 68.5 cents per $100 valuation since 1993. As you can see, we have issued 208 million plus, yet our tax rate has been very steady throughout the years. As a matter of fact, we actually had a decrease, and then it's up and down, and right now it's 65.0517. That's what our tax rate is. We have been able to service such a large debt without a major tax rate increase because of the tremendous growth the city has enjoyed the last few years. And of course, we also had some monies that were paid by other sources, such as the PID, the CDBG, FAA grants for the airport, runway, taxiway G, and of course the GBIC contribution. No debt was issued during fiscal years 95, 96, 2005, and 2009. I know this question came up several minutes ago, is when do we go out for a bond election? Well, there's two dates that we could, according to the law, it's the second Saturday in May or the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and that's the general election date. What have we done? What has the city done with all this debt that has been issued? This particular schedule shows you some of the major capital projects that the city has done those years, and they're listed here. And some of the ones that we certainly like to point out is you got airport improvements, which are quite a few dollars. We've done animal shelter construction. We've done the multimodal facility bus, which we just started. Obviously, it's not complete yet. We had the citywide financial management enterprise modernization project 6.6. We have the downtown project improvements, City Plaza building remodeling, event center construction, fire station facilities, EMS vehicles, the Gladys Porter Zoo, the golf course, $4,910,000. We had some capital projects at the landfill. We had library facilities of $8,877,800. These are all worthwhile projects. The linear park, $2 million. Parks, $9,841,000. But on line 61 of that particular schedule, $66,398,221 for streets. And we have been able to keep, I guess, the momentum going because for the last few years, we have most of the bonds or most of the debt that the city has issued has gone towards streets. Now, do we want to keep the momentum going, or do we want to sort of slow down if we don't issue more debt? Sometime in April, we came to you and we asked for you to approve some debt, and part of that included some monies for the street improvements. So I guess our main concern here is that all these projects that we have made or actually used for the last few years or spent for the last few years have been worthwhile projects.
Pete, can I ask a question? I didn't see the sports park there. And I know why, because I want people to know out there that the sports park is paid through 4B. There is no, Reese, pay attention. Reese, pay attention. The sports park we didn't need any bond money for the city to pay for the sports park. Sports park never had to get any money from the city. Just so you'll know. Yeah, but the city's not paying for it.
It's supposed to be on the revenue funds or general obligation bonds?
The sports parks is paid from sales tax, so that's considered a revenue
That's for
bond.
4B.
Yeah,
The 4B is the one that's paying for that.
yeah, but it doesn't come out of,
I have
the,
no problem, I already knew it was being paid by 4B, but the amount of money that was spent,
Mhm.
$27 million.
Nah, I don't agree with that
And I
number
don't
at
see
all.
but
I don't,
two
that's not the
restrooms
number. That's not the number.
Well, sure, that's the
That's
number
not,
that they
that's
gave
not the
us.
number.
What's the number?
I
Give me
would,
the number.
I'll say close to 19.
Well, okay, 19, and you issued debt for some of that money or not?
Yeah, we've been.
But we need to let the taxpayer know it's not coming out of them. It's not coming out of
You
taxpaying
issued debt
dollars.
for some of
It's
that,
sales tax.
Money, sir.
Yeah.
So that money, it creates interest.
Exactly.
You have to pay interest on the
Exactly.
money.
But
And
it
you
can
know,
only be used for one reason only, and it's for capital, for quality of life projects.
But now also you have to tell Mr. Gonzalez that, you know, if it's 4B money that's being used, we've already been taxed on that money. That's 4B, we have 2 extra cents that we pay the city when we go anywhere and buy for 4A and 4B. Now, the one to, we cannot absorb.
Mr. Reese,
that.
the 4B and the 4A were approved by the voters of Brownsville. The 4B is for quality of life projects that the citizens of Brownsville approved, and we also have the 4A, which the citizens of Brownsville approved, and that's for economic development projects. Those two corporations were formed because the citizens of Brownsville authorized it.
The idea of the parks were for what, sir, for the people
The,
of Brownsville?
the
Or
parks,
to-
the
or to
parks is,
bring, attractions to the city.
the park is a quality of life project, and that a park qualifies for quality of life project.
Do you have water fountains there? Yes. Unless you. That's where somebody else is gonna go jumping, not me.
Yeah, and there's 1/4 each cent. It goes to, 1/4 goes to 4A and 1/4 goes to 4B. And again, that was through the citizens of Brownsville voting for that. We've also talked about grants. This is a number of the grants that the city of Brownsville received in fiscal year 2008. And again, and I'll go over them with you. You have community development, you have home grants, you have the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, you have Office of Justice Department, Department of Justice, you have the transit system, which are quite a bit of grants that we receive, planning grants, capital grants under the Federal Transit Administration. We have the urban highway planning construction, again, FAA, which is the airport, 11,337,000. Department of Transportation. And if you notice in this particular schedule, you've got a grantee, which is the cities, there's a local share, and then there's the federal government or state grants. And in this case, I'll give you the grand total. Then we have later, then we have the emergency management grants, and notice that there's always a local share associated with it. In all together, all the grants that the city received in 2008 was a large amount. We had to come up with $5,229,166 in local share, and the agencies, the federal agencies, came out with $26,635,739. And obviously, all of these are related for capital project grants.
Pete, Mayor, can I ask a question? Pete, these are all federal, right?
Federal, and you also have Texas Department of, there's also some, well, I didn't finish completely. The total amount is, excuse me, $27,544,625
In federal dollars?
in federal and state grants.
What about private grants?
They're not listed here.
They're not listed.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to show you is that we did get quite a bit last year in grants. And I'm sure there's others that I understand that we are going to be hiring two grant writers that hopefully will be able to capture some of that stimulus money that's out there. And they're going to be with us for about 2 years.
Are you going to go ahead and select them from the personnel you have right now, or you are going to advertise for the position?
I believe that they've already been at Mr. Medina.
Because I have not seen.
Wait a second. First of all, you're out of order, and that's a separate matter. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But that's okay, you make the rules here as you go along.
Mayor, may I have the floor?
Commissioner Camarillo, no, I didn't encourage the chat. Commissioner Atkins got into discussion with you. Go ahead, Commissioner Camarillo.
Pete, going back to these grants, and you mentioned that the private organizations or foundation grants are not listed here. I'm not sure what that amount would be. But if you look at all these grants, yes, a lot of them are coming for bus, a lot of them are coming from PD and Homeland Security and for the airport, which is all great. But there's a section that's missing for general use, general functions of the city. And the only way to get those monies is if the city of Brownsville has an official grant writer, a grant writing department. We've gone over this for the past couple of years, and I'm hoping that's going to change this next time around, because there is so much, and we are at that bottom, the scale in terms of, getting monies from foundations, but also other local organizations that do have grant opportunities, and we're missing them, and we're missing them on many different levels. And so to better enhance services, local services here to the public, for people to really, truly see the benefits of those monies that we are missing, we really need to establish that office. And I know Jeff and Ben, they're working on it, and the federal stimulus funds, essential, important, I mean, beyond what any of us can imagine, but it's those other funds that are there and that other communities are taking part in that we're not, bless you. That's important for us to go after just as equally as they do.
And like I stated earlier, that the planning department has already in the process of hiring those two grant writers to be with us for at least 2 years, working mainly on the stimulus package. And you're right, trying to get as many grants as possible. Yes. These are some of the commitments that the city has already incurred. We were hoping that with some of these expenses that have already been incurred, that we would issue some debt, because we have already acquired police cars for $902,771. We were doing the work at the landfill, $881,480. Electrical signals, which are badly needed here in the city. We needed a bucket truck for the electric signals, and then traffic lights, altogether $159,315. And then you have ambulances for the EMS. We have 3 ambulances for $315,325. These are commitments that the city has already incurred, and actually in some cases some of this equipment has been received by the city. So we are hoping that we are going to come to you probably in November, December of next fiscal year, this particular calendar year, and issue some COs to cover these expenses. If not, the general fund would have to absorb this cost. And we came to you in April of this year to get a reimbursement resolution, assuming that we could go ahead and get the money from the general fund and then get reimbursed. And this is a small issue, it's not a large issue. But to this, we could easily add, if possible, some monies for streets. And that's why we are encouraging you to approve a 2-cent tax increase. This is what we had, I guess, come up with at the beginning of the year. Obviously, we're not asking for this, but this is, as you can see at the very top, is street construction of $6 million. Some of the, and there's a lot of requests by a lot of departments that obviously we were not able to fund. Special projects, $17,529,500. I do have a breakdown of all that. If anybody wants to look at them, I have copies. And this is some of the special projects that obviously we would like to have that we don't have, totaling $15,564,000. So there's a lot of need for capital projects in the city of Brownsville that obviously we cannot do because the funding is not in place. As you can see, Morrison Road is in there. And then you have the East Loop, more expenses for sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. Airport fund, $1,690,000. Capital requests that are not in the budget that obviously were requested, it was a little over $9 million. Positions, full-time positions, obviously are not in the budget, requested for approximately $1,885,498. The city, and I put this up because the city has been our credit has been improved during the last few years. Right now, our credit is being reviewed actually graded by 3 rating agencies. That's Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. Standard & Poor's upgraded the city's bonds in February of '97 from an A- to an A, and again on March 26, 2008, from an A to an A+. So right now, Standard & Poor's rating to the city of Brownsville is A+. Moody's has upgraded the city's outstanding debts twice. In May '98, we went from a Baa1 to an A3, and again on March 20th, 2002, we went from an A3 to an A2. On April the 19th, 2002, Fitch Ratings upgraded the city's bonds from an A to an A+. The last bond ratings issued by the 3 rating agencies were during the latter part of 2008. So I would just want to show you some of the positive things that the city has had
Can I ask a
the
question?
last few years.
Commissioner Akers, let me ask you something. With the situation we're in with the economy and our reserves going down, our OEC going down, are we in jeopardy of losing that A status if we don't maintain a certain amount of reserves?
We are.
Can our status go down if we go
Yes,
under
we are.
a certain amount of number?
Yes. Every time we visit have visits with the rating agencies, that's one of the areas that they look at. They look at other statistics. They look at the unemployment rate. They look at building construction in the area. And one of the things that they always target is the reserve. You want to make sure we have at least a 15% reserve in our fund balance, in our general fund. And that's something that they always, because at one time we were way back in the early 90s, we were actually put on a credit watch because our fund balance was very, very low. It was around $200,000. Just imagine 200. Well, later on, that number, Mayor, was revised to 200,000 because we were not capturing some monies from the PUB. Our auditors came back and said, well, this particular item should have been included in that particular. But you're right.
Was very low.
But when we went to the rating agencies, we went with a fund balance that less than 100,000. But we did change that later. And right now we ended the year in 2008 with a strong fund balance. We want to continue with that fund balance, and that's why it's very important for us to at least get that 2-cent increase. Another thing that we want to point out this particular year, if you look at some of our assessments, valuations have actually in some areas, in some homes, the value of the property actually went down. There are some neighborhoods whereby the values have gone down. And that's the reason why we only see a 1.5% increase in our valuation between 2009 and 2010, or tax year 2008 and 2009. The growth has slowed, and because of the foreclosures, obviously, that are occurring in the area, meaning that the values of those properties are being decreased, and as a result, our valuations are down. We also have another good story to tell you is that the City of Brownsville has received on our comprehensive annual financial report the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the last 32 years. So that's something that we're proud of. Unemployment rates. Look at 90, 91, 92, 93, double-digit unemployment rates. All the way to 2004, we were still at a double-digit. 2005, we went down to 735, then 6.5, 610. 2009, 8, we had a unemployment rate in Brownsville of 6.9. So far, the average for the period ending July of 2009, the average is 9.8, but the unemployment rate for July of this year was 10.9. This comes from the Texas Workforce Commission. Our debt for the city of Brownsville, $161,698,234, and you notice that our debt in 2012 goes from 149 to 140, and then 130 million, 120, 108. And one of the reasons why we're going to have a huge decrease in our outstanding debt is because of this issue that way back in '86, where we issued capital appreciation bonds. And capital appreciation bonds, really what they are is that you pay your interest at the far end of the schedule. In most cases, you pay up front. Why did we issue capital appreciation bonds in '86 is because at that time we went to the voters in 1986. We issued over $15 million worth of bonds. In today's dollars, you're looking at around $30 million, $35 million worth of bonds. The city commission at that time told us, we don't want you to raise the tax rate more than 3 cents. So in order for us to have kept the tax rate increase of 3 cents, we issued some capital appreciation bonds. And I'm happy to say that in the year 2011, those capital appreciation bonds were already being paid. As you can see in this particular schedule, principal for this capital appreciation bonds are $1,108,234, but look at the interest, $7,038,532. As a result, then our debt service obligations go down because now most of our payments from now on after that year are going to go towards the principal. This is something, a chart that I've shown before, the tax rates that the city has had for the last few years. Percentage categories, personnel, almost 71% are personnel. Our product is service, so that's why we have our personnel cost of almost 71%. Public safety, 72% of all personnel costs are related to public safety. This is a schedule of the latest sales tax that the city has received. As you can see, the Brownsville is down 5.27%. Look at the other border cities, in particular McAllen and Edinburgh, in Laredo rather. The latest numbers that I see for Laredo and McAllen are around 7% decrease. So we're doing better than those two other cities, but still our shortfall budget-wise is around $2 million. And that's what's hurting us, obviously, the economy, the recession. When are we going to be out of the recession? I guess it's anybody's guess. The U.S.
What do you foresee, Pete, till 2011 maybe?
I would say that it's going to take another year, maybe 2 years.
It's hard to tell, though. You don't know.
We don't know, but if you look at the U.S. and Brownsville or the Rio Grande Valley, the U.S. felt the recession during the fall of 2007. It took us a year for us to feel the recession. We didn't feel it until the fall of 2008. So we're a little bit behind as far as from the rest of the nation. So if they say right now that we're almost at the bottom, we're not going to go any, I'm talking about the national, that we're almost out of the recession. It'll probably take us another year since we are behind them. This is an example of some of the recessions that, obviously we're going through a recession right now, and as you can see, 2008 and 2009 sales tax, there's going to be a decline. But if we go back to the recession of '82, which was a tough for us, we not only had the recession, but we also had the peso. Between 1982 and '83, we saw a drop of over 33% in our sales tax. That's a major decrease. It took us 6 years to recover. What happened in the '94 recession or peso devaluation? It took us about 2 years to recover. So we're hoping that this recession will take us at least 2 years to get out of it. I'm not going, this is the bridge. Obviously, the bridge also has an impact on the crossings. Cameron County did authorize a toll increase, but only for light vehicles, passengers and light trucks. We have the Veterans Bridge. That's where we share equally between profits between Cameron County and the city. They, or the Cameron County, did not approve a toll increase for the commercial trucks. And some of those, the majority, I would say, maybe not the majority, but quite a bit of the commercial trucks are generated through Los Veterans Bridge. And you probably can talk about that if you want to. That's quite a bit of.
I'll stay away from that.
Okay. And again, this is another thing that we're getting hard hit pretty bad. Look at 2006, 2.9 million. That's how much we received on the Veterans Bridge. We estimated in 2009 of 1.6 million. That's 1,300,000 decrease between 2006 and 2009. That we feel it real bad.
Does the city audit Veterans Bridge?
The Veterans Bridge, or actually all the, they get audited by, and we get an audit report each year.
By the county, so we take the county's word.
Well, it's an independent auditor that audits the county, completely independent, and we get those reports from the audit. It's an audit number. It's a CPA audit. Let me talk to you about building permits. And look at the decline in building permits between 2008 and 2009. What's causing this decline in building permits? Obviously, it's the recession. Obviously, there's foreclosures. People are not building. They're actually buying some of these foreclosures, homes that have been foreclosed at a bargain price. So construction is down. The other, and I don't know if I want to mention this, but maybe, I know that in one case, there's a particular property owner that wants to build a home, and he has to pay for the meter, water meter. Right now, the water meter, just for that particular home, I believe he was paying $350, and because of the increase in the impact fees, he's now going to pay about $2,000. So is it possible now that that particular homeowner is going to delay the construction? And by delaying the construction, does that mean that we are going to have less buying, purchasing being done in the city, lumber that's not being bought? Is it possible now that the plumbers, electricians, jobs that they had in the past? I don't know. It's anybody's guess, but maybe that has an impact. I don't know. Look at this particular chart. It tells a story here. Look at 2004, 2005, or actually from 99 all the way to 2008. Strong construction in Brownsville. In 2000, all the way to 2007, over 200 million in building permits issued. 2008 was way over, 362 million. That's why I always say that the recession didn't hit us until 2009. Right now, we estimate about 130 million. We hadn't seen under 200,000 since 98, when we had 124 and 177 in 97. So obviously this has a major impact on our economy because we have our tax base is not going this way.
Do you think that 2008 is so high because most of the developers knew that this impact fee was coming, so they tried to get ahead of the game and purchased all these?
I have no idea.
Pete, aren't those the bond projects, the BISD, the university?
We had
those bond projects come?
The university, I think, had, yeah, the university had, quite a bit in 2000. I think it was 2007 and 2008.
But it had nothing to do with the impact fee.
I don't know if the university is going to be issuing more bonds in 2009. I think they're already run out. The peso, it's August of '08, strong, 989. It's getting better, but still high compared to August of 2008, 1335 as of today. One of the changes that we've made in the budget is that we moved some of the street construction that would normally be being paid out of the general fund into a bond fund. And again, this is just a temporary fix, that's what this is, of almost $2 million that would normally be in charge to the general fund. So in order for us to get closer to balancing the budget. And again, we want to continue with the building of street construction. Now we're going to the Convention and Tourism Fund. This is something I've covered before, the Culture Affairs Advisory Committee. This is the latest recommendation for the hotel motel tax. We have the Brownsville Historical Association getting $140,000 from the HUD funds and $15,000 from general and $14,000 from utilities. On top of that schedule, obviously, we have the Brownsville Community Health Center that we provide utilities. It's our building, so it's around $80,000 in utilities. The CAF, 15 from HUD and HUD funds and $10,000 from general. We estimate about $20,000 for utilities, altogether $45,000. The Historic Brownsville Museum, $45,000, hotel motel tax, 0 from the general fund, approximately $35,000 in utilities, total $80,000. We are, to stay within the law, we are required to allocate 15% for historic projects. So it's, we anticipate hotel motel tax of $1,350,000. 1,350,000 times 15% is 202,500. So we're allocating 200,000 to those agencies. For the arts, we have the Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts, 50,000 from hotel motel tax, and then you have the utilities of 43,000, altogether 93,000. The Society of Performing Arts, 50,000 from HUD funds, and utilities are around 200, 50,200. Camille Playhouse, 25,000 from hotel motel tax, approximately 27,000 in utilities, altogether 52,000. The Children's Museum, 48,000 from hotel motel tax, 0 from general fund, 19,000 for utilities, together 67,000. Costume of the Americas, utilities are being charged to the Children's Museum, so that's why we have 0 for utilities, $22,000. We are required, or by law, 15% that goes to the arts. 1,350,000 times 15% gives you 202,500. So we're within the level of that of 190. We're allocating 195,000. Then you have the Convention and Visitors Bureau of 125,000. The Tennis Center Association, 30 from hotel motel tax, 10 from general fund. And then you have utilities of 13,000, 53,000 altogether. Zoo, 400,000. Approximately 285,000 in utilities, 685,000 altogether. So the total, we received 1,350,000 in hotel motel tax. We feel very comfortable that we will be getting the 1,350,000. That's how the monies are going to be distributed. And then we also have 35,000 in cash coming from the general fund.
Hey, Commissioner, someone asked a question.
Yes, Pete. Hot monies, the revenue changes every year. So what happens if that amount goes up or goes down?
What we can do, Commissioner, we can certainly revisit this either during the middle of the year and make adjustments as we see how the funds are coming in. We can certainly do that. Maybe we'll go over the 1,350,000. Right now, about 2 years ago, we got a 1 million, almost 1,600,000. So it's possible that we hope anyway. But yes, to answer your question, we would make adjustments as we go along.
Okay, Mr. Ernesti, you have a question?
This is what happened in 9 versus 2010. I'm not going to go into it. This is community development. I'm not going to go into it. Again, community development is all grants, and they're all, they come to you for the budget approval that's already been approved. Non-bonded debt, we discussed this. These are lease purchases, landfill tipping fee. We did add the architect, beautification architect for $38,400 because we are going to have some projects that they can work on. Airport and the bridge, obviously it's down. Motor vehicle, parking system, public transit. There is a loss, obviously. Every transit in the United States has losses, and we get funded from the federal government, and then the city of Brownsville puts in the other half, or the state. And then you have the golf course. And this is just the calendar. We're hoping that you approve the budget tonight and the tax rate tonight. But this is a calendar in case there's changes to be made, on dates. Again, this is a public hearing, so.
Okay, this is public hearing. Anybody from the audience? Line up over there, please. State your name.
Roberto Uresti, 1220 Calle Pluton. I came today because, number one, today's my birthday, and the only gift I do not want to receive is a tax increase. And I would like to see that. I would like to say also that, I don't know if it's true, Pete, that is there going to be a bank transfer from the PUB, more added, of $3 million?
Yeah, I'm going to let the city manager say that.
City manager, will explain that.
What's his question? You were looking
Was
at
the PUB is going to increase a $3 million bank transfer to the city?
I guess
you
you can
got
address it.
approved today at 5 o'clock, yes.
You can address it on number 3, on item 3.
You can address it now. I mean, he's asking a question. This is a public hearing on the budget.
I answered the question, yes.
Okay. Well, if that's true, then that will be a surplus. I don't know if it's going to general fund or what is going to happen. But if that's true, then we don't need a 2-cent increase, okay? So I just want to say that. But it's my birthday, please.
Happy birthday.
No tax. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday. Your mother's watching over you.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Fernando Ruiz is my name. I would like to address the following, sir, that you were just reviewed with us. Trucks versus cars. The trucks that come from Mexico that go to the port don't buy their fuel here, and they use our roads. Their cargo is sometimes overweight. They destroy our roads. I think that the ones that should have been increased is the trucks, because the vehicles come and buy gas.
Mr. Reese, you'd have to take that up with the county because we don't have no control over the.
But sir, I understand, but we're in partnership with the county.
Yeah, but we don't.
I'm just making these observations to Mr. Gonzalez.
They raise
because I don't think there have been, but you know, that's okay. There's no sense, in talking to you because you seem to know everything, and yet you don't bring any recommendations. Why don't you speak up? That's what I'm here for.
We got a couple
I come to make recommendations because these are the things that I'm here for. I don't come here to look at the walls.
Personal tax directed
It's
at the chair.
okay, let him, I'm just trying to point out, we have nothing to do with the rate increase on the bridge.
It's not your business. Mira, Papa, you need to read this.
To answer that question, right now, every county, they charge for all these overweight trucks, they pay a fee, and that fee is used to do repairs on International Boulevard.
Okay, sure, now we have this. All the vehicles that come, because some of them use the international, Mr. Atkinson, they use it, they come to purchase groceries, they come to buy at the malls, they come to eat, they come to drink, they come to what? And these guys don't leave us any money. The trucks they don't even buy their diesel here. They buy it cheaper over there. It just makes sense. I'm just trying to say, hey, I just want to bring this to your attention. It's an observation. I'm not telling you to.
The budget, Mr., you want to discuss the public
well, sir, this has
comments?
to do with the budget, Mr. Omada. I also was going to ask Mr. Mr. Gonzalez.
You're out of order, Mr. Reese. We're talking about the budget. This is a public hearing on the budget. You want to bring that up in public comments, more than happy to.
Well, no,
This
sir,
has to do
because
with
the
budget.
trucks and the cars have to do with the budget. Is it not what we're talking about what the income of the bridge is, sir? And another thing I was gonna ask, sir, the interest in which all these bonds are financed, are they fixed interest or variable interest, Mr. Gonzalez?
Fixed.
They're fixed interest, because the last one that was sold by Mr. Hinojosa, I understand it was, from the PUB was variable. And also the BISD sold variable. So you're doing a good job, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Anybody else relating to the budget? Please. The item is the public hearing on the budget. Please, state your name.
Hi.
Hello, Tere.
Tere Flores. I'm here to share a little book with you guys. It's a very what's the word? Inspirational. It's a book that created the greatest country in the world. And I'm hoping that you guys will read it. It's the Constitution of the United States. It does state that y'all are not supposed to tax us to death. We're going to be receiving a lot of taxes federally. Maybe not necessarily on an income tax, but I know our light bill's going to go up. All energy's going to go up. They're going to require us to have special material to build, to keep our houses green. So I'm going to give you guys this book. Hopefully y'all will read it and inspire you not to tax us to death. And hopefully this would make the city a better city.
Thank you, Ms. Flores.
I didn't take a grant to get this.
Thank you. Okay, you're gonna have some more comments, or that's it? Okay, anybody else on the budget, on the public hearing regarding the proposed budget, please?
Only on the budget. Just give me one little second. I love the building here. And if you look at all the beautiful building that we're in, I knew Judge Reynaldo Garza, I knew Filimon Vela, and this building is just a prized building that we ought to all be very proud of. What a beautiful building that we have here. Just one little thing, and this, I borrowed the phrase from Carlos Cascos, that we are not your ATM machine. So keep that in mind if you do want to raise our taxes. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Barrera. Anybody else on the proposed budget?
Good evening, City Commission, Mayor, and this audience. Okay, the last time I spoke before this commission, I spoke on two issues that plague this city. Two of those are rampant poverty, diffuse ignorance, and one that hits pretty close to home, which is disease. We, as a community whose back door is to Mexico, a third world country, without getting into politics of that country, would like to concentrate on our issues which are so important to this community. Last year, we were hit with the fatal disease of the H1N1 flu, commonly known as the swine flu. This deadly disease was contracted by a victim who visited Mexico, contracted the disease, returned to the U.S., and the spread of the disease began to infest
Excuse me,
our
Mr. Mayor,
community.
but this is a public hearing on the budget item.
I'm getting to that. Would you please?
I keep trying to say that, but nobody wants to listen, that this is.
I'm trying to. Would you give me a chance?
The problem we have here is that this is an item that has to do with the budget. This is not the opportunity to come speak on other things. If you want to speak on other things, we have that item, and that's called public comments. And I just wish Mr. Reese and everybody else, I know it's hard for you to understand this. In order for the meeting to process in an orderly manner, we need to stick to the rules, and the rules call for that you focus on what is at hand right now, which is a proposed budget. I love to hear you all talk about any other thing you want to talk about, but that has to be in public comments. We can't mix them up. I mean, I don't know what's so hard about that. I don't know why y'all can't understand that. I don't know why it's so, but I know you have constitutional rights. I have constitutional rights. We all have constitutional rights. We're not arguing that. That's not the subject right now. If you have a problem with violating the Constitution, get an attorney and sue us if you want. But right now, we're talking about the budget. And you're out of order. No. You're out of order, and I will have you removed if you keep it up, Mr. Reese, because, I mean, this is getting out of hand. I mean, you know, we gave you all the courtesy to come and speak, okay? And you know, as called for under the rules, Look, this is, we have the city attorney, he's telling you you're out of order.
He's not supposed to get involved with this, sir. He's only served an executive session.
You know, it's hard, it's really hard to deal with people that don't want to
I am
understand.
addressing the budget. Is it the bridge part of the budget?
I have the duty and the responsibility. I don't like to do this to you all. I don't like to challenge you all, but I have to. Because that's what the rules call for. Sue us for your constitutional rights. Sue us, okay. Do you have something to say on the budget, please? This is a public hearing. Would you like to continue, madam, on the public hearing for the budget, please?
Thank you.
Please,
Well,
continue.
apparently you don't want to hear what I have to say,
I
but
do
I'll
want
get
to
to.
hear, have it coming in public comments. We're talking about the budget. Please, the rules call for public, look, let me read it to you. Public hearing regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2009, 2010. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about things that are beyond our control, the overweight trucks. We're not talking about the tolls that are raised by the county. That has nothing to do with this. We're not talking about anything other than what's here before us that affects the budget. You got some complaint, you got some suggestion, or something that has to do with the budget, has something to do with the tax rate, please, we want to hear it. We're here to hear you. But it has nothing to do with anything else. Now, you want to talk about something else? I'll be glad to hear it. You know, I don't like to do this to you. I really don't. I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy for trying to make you all understand that we all have a place here. We have to do it respectfully and follow the rules. That's all I'm saying.
Was I disrespectful to you?
Pardon me?
Was I disrespectful to you?
No, ma'am, but it causes, you saw all the chaos it causes? Just because
haven't said
I'm bringing
anything.
it to your attention that you have to follow the rules.
Okay, let me just conclude, because I had things to say, but I cannot say what I need to say.
And I respect you, Letty,
So
I
I need to
respect you,
say
and I
and
love you,
conclude, because
and
I haven't even spoken, but I need to conclude.
And I want to hear anything you have to say with the public hearing regarding the budget.
I
Please
can't say
proceed.
anything, but I can conclude, because
please
the
proceed.
other things are just not pertinent to this community and to this commission.
It may be pertinent to the community, but I'm talking about the budget right now.
Okay, the only thing that I have to say, you know, after all of this discussion, which I did not instigate, okay? Okay. My conclusion at the end of it, I said, but getting back to the original issue was the disease, the problems that we face as a border, as a city. And I'm sorry that if I bring certain other items, I mean, I have to talk about who we are. We are the border. We have our issues. We have our issues. But I submit to you that unless the three Goliaths that I have talked about, which are poverty, ignorance, and now disease, which I cannot talk about, obviously, Brownsville will always.
I keep telling you, you can't talk about those things.
No,
in
no,
public
I will not,
comments.
if this is the attitude, I'm sorry.
No, it's not the attitude.
Yes,
it's a
sir,
rule.
it is the attitude.
It's a rule. It's not the attitude.
Okay, it's the rule, so
Please
so.
sign up and we'll hear you in public comments. Nobody's telling you you can't talk about it. Just sign up for the public comments.
Okay, the only thing that I have to conclude, whatever I had to say, is that if we do not attack these giant Goliaths, these mammoth Goliaths, then my conclusion is Brownsville will always be a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live here. That is the end of everything that I had to say, and I'm sorry I can't say it because I had other positive things to say, but that
City
is
Secretary,
okay.
would you please, I will make the exception. Give her a form
No,
and let her speak in the public comments.
She has one.
The only thing is that I want to thank you for your attention and your interest in improving the community, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Letty.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody on the public hearing on the budget, please? Can we have any comments on the budget? Commissioners, anybody want to speak on the budget? City manager, anybody else want to speak on the budget?
3 minutes.
Mr. Birchfield, Dr. Birchfield, excuse me.
Mayor, commissioners.
Do you need some water?
No, I have laryngitis, so you're going to have to bear with me just a little bit. On August 10th, 1991 bond election, the taxpayers of the city of Brownsville approved $1,894,000 for improvements at the Gladys Porter Zoo. This reads, it is currently estimated that these additional capital funds will be needed in the next 5 years just to keep the zoo operating in a professional manner. This does not include expanding the zoo or noticeably increasing programs, but would make it possible to continue operating a quality zoological and botanical park in a manner that would be a credit to the city of Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley. The cut to our budget this year will jeopardize our ability not to build new things, but to maintain what we already have. And zoo visitors coming to the zoo, when things are not being maintained, that registers very quickly and word of mouth gets out there, the zoo is in disrepair. I was not asking, and we were not asking for an increase, but we certainly will have great difficulty with the decrease that this current proposal reflects. I have seen where we have transferred monies to projects which are not even yet built, but we're not going to maintain the one major tourism attraction that we have. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Birchfield. I hope you see a doctor or you're seeing a doctor. Okay, anybody else from the commission or the public? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Well, I don't think you have to. Do you? You have to close it?
Yeah.
Move to close public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close public hearing. Do I have a second? We have a second by Dr. Gowan. All in favor to close?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 2.
Item 2, consideration and action on resolution number 2009-059 to adopt the fiscal year 2010 annual budget and resolving other matters thereof.
Hello, Mayor, members of the City Commission. This particular item, you need to tell us what changes you want in the budget. Obviously, we're going to have the extra, or actually one-time transfer from the PUB of $3 million. You also need to let us know what your thoughts are on the tax rate, so we can discuss this. And then on the next item, that's when we set the tax rate.
Okay, anybody from the
Yeah,
commission? Commissioner Atkinson?
Before I let Charlie Cavalier talk, we've heard the concerns of all the citizens. You know, the commission hears what's going on out there and not wanting to raise taxes during a hard time in our economy and our community, you know, but there's a lot of us here that hear you and we want to take action, we want to help you, we want to look for ways, think outside the box to get things done because we know the situation we're in and we are the poorest city in the nation. Well, during our talks with Charlie Kabler, it's come up where PUB is in a good financial. If you notice, PUB is the only one not raising anything. You know, they've had some good years, and they continue to have good years, and still they're the lowest in the valley when it comes to their rates. And before I pass it on to Charlie Kabler, he'll let you know how city staff stepped up, along with commissioners, you know, that really take it to heart and want to find solutions during this hard times. You want to talk, Charlie Kabler? How everything came about with these $3 million?
Well, sometime back when we realized we were going through financial and budgetary issues, noting that our sales tax revenues, rate revenues, and all revenues in the city were going down, we started meeting with PUB to see if we could work out some kind of arrangement in relation to the our transfer. Obviously, we get 10% of the net from the public utilities, but we made agreements initially to get $400,000 and to find a way to save utility cost or street light cost or lighting cost as a whole, which was going to be $350,000. And that would have meant that we would have had to find a way to disconnect some of the electricity in our city, nighttime hours and things like that, which raised a little bit of alarm, issues with safety and things like that. So eventually we got into the idea of talking to bond counsel, Noe Hinojosa, who represents both PUB and us, and I wrote a letter last week requesting $3 million from PUB. And we feel that that's a measure that's going to keep us afloat this fiscal year. We can't anticipate what the future calls or what next year calls in relation to how we're going to stabilize our budget. But that's what we've done now. Obviously, when we put the 2-cent tax rate in effect, there's been a lot of issues. We don't know if that's going to pass or not. We needed to find other ways of working with PUB and anybody else that can assist us with our budget. So that's one of the things we've done. It was approved today, so you know, we got $3 million. That obviously we're going to have to work out a system with PUB as to how that money is transferred to the city. We've done a lot of measures during this time when we saw that we were going to have financial issues, cutting back on a lot of our overtime, personnel, and things like that. But I think one of the things to understand is that we've established a lot of momentum over the last 4 or 5 years in relation to being accountable to the city, very proactive in our street work, etc. We need to understand that we have committed ourselves to purchasing police, fire, and machinery for major departments in the city. That right now we are going to have to find a way to get a bond to do so, and get that material to our departments, and the vital departments being our police and fire and public works. We've started a program. We're trying to find a way to do that, and that's where we are right now. We're working very hard to make sure that we are very much accountable, but at the same time, we need to find a way not to be other than proactive in assisting our community with projects that we feel are very important to us.
Yeah, I want to add something to that. You know, when I talked to Charlie about this with our financial advisor, one thing we wanted to make sure is PUB going to be okay? Are they going to be hurt by this? Well, we found out this is surplus money that they have. It's not going to it's not going to hurt their bond rating. It's not going to rates aren't being affected right now. I mean, they're already doing a study on raising the rates. Everybody's been around here for the last couple of years. PUB's always doing studies on why the rates need to go up, and I'm sure they'll continue doing that, but I was assured that this would not affect any rate increases at this time. You know, I'm sure later on something might come up, who knows. But that's one thing when I talk to certain commissioners, like we need to advocate for this. We need to help our citizens out because a ratepayer is a taxpayer. Taxpayers support ratepayers. You're one and the same. You pay rates and you pay taxes. You know, we had opposition from the mayor, but hey, at the end of the day, the commissioners step up. And I want to congratulate every single one of these commissioners here because we reached out to the board members. We reached out to city staff, to PUB staff to make this happen because they needed to know just how in jeopardy our city budget is and how in jeopardy our city is. And we're vulnerable right now. And to keep a certain bond rating with the city, you need a certain amount of millions of dollars in reserves in case you have a catastrophe. Some people don't care about that. So, I mean, you've heard over the last few weeks of maybe we need to raise your taxes. You want good service, we got to raise taxes. You want good streets. But you know what? We thought outside the box. And we went and we talked and we communicated. And I think that's one thing PUB in the city lacks is communication with each other. But there's good people on that board. And I'd like to thank John Brusiak and Noe Hinojosa, our financial advisor. I'd like to thank Robert Guerra, the chair. He voted for it today to help us in this in-kind gesture by PUB to support the city. I want to thank Art Farias, Manny Vasquez, David Morales, good people on this board that see that they want to help not just the city commission, it's the city citizens of Brownsville. It's all of us together. We can't depict who's a ratepayer, who's a taxpayer. We're one and the same. We're one and the same, and they realize that. They're having good years right now, so they're helping us. This is the wrong time to raise taxes, and I would urge our commission to vote against raising taxes right now because of the situation we're in. You know, Charlie Kabler, I'm going to tell you something. You know, he stepped it up. Him and Pete Gonzalez and Mark Sassi, our attorney, we held the line with PUB. We let them know exactly what's at stake here and what the jeopardy is of the city if we don't get assistance. And, you know, in the city of Laredo bills their utilities. They bill them millions of dollars so that and come back. We don't do that. You know, what we've been seeing from the city is, you know, we'll waive utilities for certain nonprofits, for like some of the museums you see. They're in our city buildings. And we'll waive the utilities because we want to help out the museums and the arts. But here comes the other way around. We get PUB sticks us with the bill. So that comes out of your tax dollars. You know what I mean? They're going to collect. Even though we waived them, we're still getting charged on the back end, and that hurts our budget, and our budget goes down. And you saw up there what it takes to provide electricity for all these nonprofits and the zoo. You know, and we get charged by PUB. And it's weird because we own PUB. But it's always been, hey, we're over here, you're over here, don't mess with us. And, you know, we have an advocate who should be an advocate for the city at PUB who could have seen all this and made concessions, but it took other commissioners to get involved to make it happen. You know what I mean? And I just want to thank city staff for helping bring this to the table, and especially Charlie Calvert, because, you know, you got to be able to communicate with the boards that are under you. And to me, PUB stepped it up, and I appreciate everything they did, and they should be commended. Well, next time you see a PUB board member that voted for it, you know, I understand the mayor voted against it, but thank them. Thank them for, hey, you know what? It's not about ratepayer, taxpayer. We're all the same. So if you want to add anything else to that, Charlie.
Well, I like to add that I was there, and I think the mayor had some fine points, and he is very knowledgeable in relation to what the PUB does, and he had some very fine points, and complimentary to both sides in that issue. Obviously, you know, you vote and the decision is made, and the decision was made in the city's favor at this time. But I also like to add that throughout the year and throughout the years, we've established fine working relationships with public utilities, Mr. Brusiak and his staff, and they were very much helpful in us obtaining knowledge and information that we needed to be able to even bring this before the board. So I think our relationship with PUB as far as staff is concerned, and employee to employee, and city manager to CEO, and you know, our financial director and theirs is a good relationship, and that's what we need to do. We need to maintain good relationships and be able to assist each other whenever it may be that one or the other needs assistance. And I think that's what happened today. They came forth and we presented an item to them, and now we need to assist them and back them up in relation to maintaining our budget and making sure we're accountable and we present ourselves well when it comes to making decisions in relations to how we're going to authorize expenditures and things like that in the future. But I do appreciate the compliments.
Thank you, Charlie. Commissioner Simon?
Yes, Mr. Kavler, I need some clarification. This $3 million transfer, is it a one-time thing, or is it something that they're willing to consider in the future should we find ourselves in a bind again?
Well, I mean, that's one of the concerns that they had when we were addressing it today was, is this going to be an every year thing, or what are you going to do in the future to assure that you don't get into these financial situations, things like that. Of course, some of it, we rely so heavily on sales tax that if we see sales taxes going down and we monitor that monthly and we get reports on sales tax, we rely heavily on that. That's the number one generator to our budget because we use property tax to pay bonds and things like that. Now, our budget does not consist of anything capital. We have to go out on bonds to be able to get funding to work on our streets, our drainage, our equipment. It's not noted in our budget that anywhere where you see that there's capital expenditures.
Well,
so yes, this is a one-time scenario for this. So if we don't see an improvement, now we see improvements through the year, like Pete noted to you when you brought up the idea of the nonprofits and considering any
The adjustments.
yeah. So we're going to monitor that with them.
Well, therein
Along
lies
with
my
that,
concern. If we're going to use this transfer to provide cost of living adjustments or raises, how do we propose to sustain that in the future if this is going to be a one-time thing?
Well, this is a transfer to our budget to be able to utilize this funding for this fiscal year. Whether you consider monetary increases to our employees, that's going to be a policy you all have to make a decision on. But we did not address that with them. We addressed the dire need for this coming fiscal year. Although how we're going to use the funding and all that, we'll gladly share with them throughout the year because it's going to be funded in draws. It's not going to be a one-time. Here's $3 million.
And
So we're going to have a close. I'm sorry.
No reimbursement.
No. But we'll have a close relationship with them and a working relationship with them, and we'll be able to share information and see how things are going throughout the year, whether it's sales tax, bridge revenues, or any other type of revenue, and vice versa with them and how they're doing throughout the year. So we're going to have to establish a solid working relationship detailing our revenues and how they're performing throughout the fiscal year.
Was it a unanimous decision of the PUB board?
No.
No.
It was, the mayor voted against it and Raymond Nojosa abstained. Everybody else voted for it. Dave Morales, Robert Guerra, Henry Nakira, Art Farias, and Manny Vasquez.
Is there anyone here from PUB?
They're having their meeting right now. They're still.
This is one of the first things on their agenda.
Let me explain.
Yes, sir.
I'm not here, Commissioner Atkinson likes to grandstand and attack me. That's fine. All I want, I think people understand, I want a better city. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I want a better city, and I'm not content with mediocrity. I saw the problem coming, and as many have seen the problem coming since 2006, 2005. The city has dipped into the reserve since then, and no plan of action to correct it. PUB is bailing us out. That's what it's coming down to. So somebody's going to have to make up that. That's the ratepayers. Sure, you're not raising taxes, but the ratepayers are going to have to make up that because that money.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
Commissioner,
That's not true at all.
First of all, let me speak.
You're not
and you can
telling the
speak.
truth.
Because that's coming out of the capital improvement fund, okay? And those capital improvements are now going to get done. That money's going to have to get replaced to get them done because we're going to have to get them done sooner or later. And that's through rates. So eventually it will hurt us. So it's a Band-Aid for the city, a one-time deal, but the ratepayer's still having to make it up. Now, let me tell you why I have such a high standard. In 2005, when it was recommended and the commission agreed to adopt rate increases over a period of time, They adopted the first one. Then they didn't adopt the rest of them. That already caused a $1.8 million shortfall on the water and wastewater. And as Commissioner, as City Manager can attest, the concern that I brought up there was that today's 1.8 million, and the projected shortfall, because we will not act and do as recommended by the experts, the shortfall is going to be 40 million by 2014. So the way I look at this budget, I'm asking citizens to pay, $14 or $16, $16.05 per household. Everybody puts a little bit, okay? And we correct the problem, because if next year we have the same problem, we already corrected it. If next year we have the same problem, where are we going to get money? We're going to go back to PUB again and ask for money. That's what's going to happen. So it's better to correct the problem. Everybody pitches in their fair share, and we have a higher standard. Everybody. Otherwise, we're going to bring the city down, and we're going to bring PUB down. And that's my concern. So if I voted against it, I voted against it because of the business sense that I have, that I think the city needs to. City is service-oriented. PUB is capital-oriented, and it demands a lot of capital. Electrical substation or water infrastructure for wastewater is very expensive, okay? So we depend on rates to get them sustained and keep them to give you efficient service at the lowest cost, okay? So we have two systems differently, two different needs. It's not fair because we have no plan. We have no plan. That's what it comes down to. We have no plan to balance our budget other than to ask for welfare from PUB or transfer, and we may ask for it again next year. Instead of biting the bullet, doing all that we did, and saying, okay, let's all share in the responsibility and make sure that we're proactive, that we have a higher standard, we can run this city the way it's supposed to be done. Next year, we'll see. But, I just did my part. People may not like the way I think. Let me finish. People may not like the way I think or the way I do, but it's not for me. I just want what's best for my city. That's all.
Let me add to that. You went up to Charlie Cabler.
Let Commissioner Atkinson wants to attack me. Attack me.
Because you know what? You need to be called out on your actions. And bottom line, when Charlie Cabler talked to you about this, you thought it was a good idea, and that was great. As soon as you found out certain commissioners or even me was advocating for it, you went totally against it. And you called Davidson and Trujillo, lawyers, trying to get a letter to scare the PUB members from voting to help the citizens of Brownsville. And when our financial advisor already had stated that PUB would be okay and it wasn't hurting PUB, you want to get a letter from a lawyer from San Antonio to say that we shouldn't do this, when our financial advisor for PUB, who, by the way, is with the city, and go against what his recommendations are. So don't sit here and act like you want a better Brownsville. If you had it your way, you charge $3 extra to citizens for dogs. And that's where I have a personal issue with you, when you're not protecting the citizens. And that's where you need to protect the citizens, whether you like it or not.
Okay, wait a second. Charlie Cowler, City Manager. I said I would support the $3 million, provided that the city would endorse the rate impact study. Did I not say that?
Yes, sir.
At the PUB meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. To help us avoid shortfalls for PUB. Did I not say that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, that's a tit for tat.
No,
You're just saying right there,
I'm saying
willing
this.
to give you $3 million, but if you raise the rate. That's what you're saying right
Because we have to maintain.
So you're for raising the rates now, right? You want to raise the rates now, right?
I am for protecting PUB's integrity.
You want to raise taxes, and when you got elected, which I helped you get elected, you said you weren't going to raise taxes, and that's exactly what you want to do right now.
With somebody.
No, you're there.
I just want to make a point, and City Manager, one, I'm appreciative of all the work you all have done to find a way out, because it's important. We live in tough economic times, and we know that people have very, very, their income levels are not what they used to be. People have lost their jobs. You can tell by the unemployment rate. So the fact to raise taxes at this point did not make much sense, because it do more damage than good. And if we increase the tax rate, we also knew that it wasn't solving any problem. 2 Sundays ago, I had a meeting at Westside PD, and citizens were concerned about the robberies they had in their area, primarily El Mar. And, you know, to stand in front of 15 individuals and have 2 officers from Brownsville PD say, basically, we are short-staffed, and to know that a tax increase will not even help that aspect of you know, city services, you know, it made very clear in my mind that we have major issues that aren't so easily, we can't just solve them overnight, but it's a process. And as I told the residents, we're going to try to find a way to make sure we do have more patrols. You know, when we look at certain parts of the city, they only have 2 officers, you know, throughout the day. That's shocking. But our job, and I told them to hold me responsible, and the rest of the city commission, is to find a way to get out of that. And as PUB will help us and you know, help us keep us afloat without having to raise taxes, we can't rely on PUB for the following year, the year after that, and so forth. I don't think that'll be the long-term solution. Maybe for the short term, but this next year is so essential that we figure out a way that when we're looking at budgets and revenues and how to grow the city's money on a month-by-month basis, you know, we all need to be proactive. You know, how are our fees going to go up? You know, in terms for like parking. We look at parking. We brought in like 65. The revenue was I think like 57,000. You know, we had a shortfall of like 27,000, and the 27,000 isn't very high, but it's so low that we could have made that up. And so within these next 10 to 11 months, we need to figure out those ways of when we don't peak of where we should in revenue, we need to find a way, how are we going to maneuver ourselves to grow that? And I think we need to do that with every service within the city, but it's something that happens day 1, day 2, day 3, and so forth. Because this does help, and this will help the people. You know, I hope that there'll be another way to grow the PD, to grow our fire, to keep us afloat. And I don't think it's an impossible task, because I think we have very talented people. I think we do have a plan, and that's Imagine Brownsville. And if we look at that land use and we adopted that, and we focus on those areas that they've pinpointed for us, and everything we do, I think we could see, you know, again, I think, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But, you know, like I said, I think that there's a lot of work to be done after this point, and I look forward to help doing that with you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gallant, please. Doctor.
Thank you, Commissioner, I think.
I'd also like to thank the staff and PUB for your hard work and for your patience for all of the questions that I may have had over the last few days and weeks. I think that perhaps we should consider using the funds for projects that are both common to PUB and the city, so that it may be more palatable to some. And I think as well we should take this gift as a first step, as has been pointed out, to keep our eye on the long-range plan that will hopefully be in our hands to facilitate this year, which is so important.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Reese, you want to say something? Yes, Mr. Reese. Or is it?
Mayor and Commissioners, I was born here in Brownsville. I love Brownsville just as much as you do.
I'm sorry, can you?
I love Brownsville just as much as you do. I'm here also performing as you are. I address not only the city commission, but the school district, the navigation district. I have to be prepared and do a lot of studying to address issues. The citizens of Brownsville have no problem with 2 cents, or for a matter, 10 cents. How much do you need? But you know what? We want for you to spend it right. We need to start thinking of how we spend our money, because the people are very limited now in their resources. Make your study. What do we need? 10, 15, 20 cents? Right now is the time, if you're going to issue debt, is to consolidate whatever you owe, because the interest rates are the lowest they have been in I don't know how long. And then this debt you will erase, because the PUB also has debt. The PUB issued first of all, and you're aware, it's 77 million out of 265 million that they're going to issue. And my complaint there is that I addressed the chief financial officer and says, hey, why did you not issue this debt in fixed interest? You could have gotten a better rate than what you are in variable. The school did the same thing, 135 million, at variable interest. Well, they're tearing us apart because we have to pay for that. You know what? Although the school has a 75% that the state is going to cover, like when the college got the 68 million, that's when we also issued the debt for the college. But you know what? It's not about the money. It's how we distribute it. We need to make sure now that we know how we're going to spend. Plan your work, work your plan, plan your work and work your plan. The people of Brownsville, we want good security, we have good security. We're not gonna say, hey, for 5 more cents for the police department, hey, let's go, because we don't want to be in a predicament or a situation like we have our next door neighbor, where the people are not able to live anymore. They live in fear. I don't want that for our citizens. Okay. So whatever we need, let's get it together. Let's think about refinancing. Now's the time to refinance.
Thank you. Okay, this is an action item. Commissioner.
Just real quick, and thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging me. Mr. Kabler, thank you for your hard work on this issue. I spoke with Mr. Hinojosa.
Yes, sir.
We talked about it, and he explained to me that at this time, based on the funding mechanism, that a rate increase would not be necessary at PUB. He explained to me that he thought that one of the things that we had to look out and specifically look at was the fact that the ratepayer is the taxpayer. And
yes,
we're not in a situation where we want to put any greater burden on our citizens because everybody's hurting. We don't know what the economy is going to do over the next year. And if we can balance our budget and we can do it with this one-time transfer, it's something that he thought was an effective tool as a stopgap measure. I think it was a great idea. I'm glad that you all did it. He recommended it highly. And I think that's something that we need to look at. Obviously, we have to plan for the future. And obviously, I don't think that a tax increase was going to fly because the question becomes one of credibility and can the people see, as Mr. Ruiz just mentioned, that we're actually going to do what we need to do with the money. And I think the burden is on us right now to plan and to make sure that when we come up for next year's budget, that we've got a way to meet the revenue needs for the community and that we can show that we've taken steps to trim down where we can trim down. And I know that y'all have gone through the budget numerous times. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much for going through and cutting. You've met with myself, some of the other commissioners. I know that. And we really have to take our responsibilities for the community to heart. And I know that, Mr. Kabler, you've done that right now and in finding these extra funds. And thank God we have PUB, that we have a public municipality that can produce this type of revenue and can bail us out when we need to. It's not a large amount of money, but it sure beats going to the public for 2 cents or 1 cent when at the end of the day that wasn't going to cover all of our needs and it wasn't going to solve all our problems. And we need to sit here and think, how are we going to get to where we need to go? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Let me thank you, Commissioner, and the rest of the commission and the mayor. You always are available. You offered us ideas, and when you ask us questions, you are offering us ideas. So never hesitate to do that. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all the compliments to myself and staff.
Mr. Barrera, please.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that the PUB transferred to you $3 million.
Yes, sir.
All right. I will go before the PUB in the next meeting, and I want to thank them for doing that to the budget. But from then on, they might not be doing the same thing every year. So we have to watch the following year as to where we spend our money. But I'll go before that on behalf of all of you, because I've heard it, that we want to thank the PUB for that transfer, that $3 million to the city to help us out at least somewhat. Thank you very much.
Dag, you're one of the people that comes up here and always opposes any kind of tax increase. And in 2007, when we saw the problem coming, that they dipped into the reserves, I told you there was a need for a tax increase, and it wasn't done. 2008, same thing. I told you there was a need because they were dipping into the reserve. It wasn't done. 2009 is the same thing, and it's not being done. So, the problem is there. We're getting a fix, but what are we going to do next year? Unless we're proactive. The word was used, proactive. And unless we correct the problem, next year we're going to have the same problem. because I said that was gonna happen in 2007, that this was gonna happen. If PUB didn't have the money to give it to us, what would we do right now? Okay? Now, but to say that we don't need rate increases, that's a lie. It's not true. The rate study today showed that we need rate increases. And the rate study that was introduced the rate proposal in 2005 said we need it, because we already have a shortfall over there on the water and wastewater because we didn't do the rates as we had promised. We have $1.7 million, almost $1.8 million shortfall already, okay? And are projected by 2014 to 40 million. So if we don't take corrective action over there, through here, we're gonna have the same problem we're having here. So my point is this: the city needs a proactive plan, PUB has a proactive plan, but they do need to work together. But tough decisions need to be made. If you're expecting PUB to bail you out every year, somebody still has to make up for it. The ratepayers have to make up for it somehow. So I don't think this is the solution. It's a Band-Aid, okay? And I think we should be proactive, and I think we should raise it 2 cents for next year. That way we're prepared and we're not having to depend on PUB. That's being proactive, because if we don't do this now, and the projection by my standards, and I think the financial advisor, budget guy, we're looking at probably 2011, okay, that we're going to be in this situation. Now, as far as the financial advisor, I have no confidence in him. He serves 2 masters. He represents the city and PUB. He's gonna do what the commissioners tell him up here, because that's his bread and butter. So to me, we should have 2 financial advisors, one protecting PUB and one advising the city. No, we have one financial advisor for both. And he doesn't understand, he apparently doesn't understand PUB, because when he told me we did not need rate studies, we did not need increased rates, that was proven, because last time we raised the rates one time, and then the commission did not raise rates as it promised. He said, you see, we didn't need the rate increases. But he was proven wrong today, because it shows we have a $1.8 million shortfall in the water and wastewater.
But you're making up on the electricity side.
What, you see,
you're making it up on the
they're
electricity
supposed to be
side.
funded, each one
It doesn't
individually.
matter. You're still making it up on the
See,
electricity
we
side.
spend $200 and some $1,000 for a rate study.
Politics.
Why spend for the rate study? We spend $250,000 for impact fee study. Why spend it? We spend I don't know how many thousands of dollars for a capital improvement study. Why spend it if the city commission is not going to adopt a professional experts study? It makes no sense. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just telling you, next year, you're going to remember me just like you remembered me last year when you said, don't do this. This is the problem. I told you this problem was going to happen. Did I not tell you that? Okay? The problem's here. And I was right. Okay? And I'm going to be right next time also. Where are we going to get the money? Unless we're proactive and everybody shares. $16 per household average, and everybody does everything what they have to do, and we'll get through it. But to depend only on PUB each time, each year, because you have a problem, it's not going to work.
Well, let me add to that. You know, when I talked to our financial advisor, I'm going to tell you something. It was a benefit that he serves the city and PUB, because he saw where he could help. This, you know, he stepped up to the plate, and he helped us find this along with our city staff. He was able to look at both and say, man, you know, some of the staff, well, he's not representing PUB, but he's representing the citizens of Brownsville. He needs to think like that too, as a financial advisor for PUB and the city. He came up and he was like, look, this $3 million is chump change. Chump change. Did you not hear that word when we talked to him? Chump change. And that opened my eyes, like, wait a minute. Here we're going through some economic downfall. We can't give our employees raises. And for financial advisors to say PUB's doing real well right now, we've helped them get the grant monies they're getting, over $40 million in grant stimulus money. They're in a good position to help us. And I'm still a firm believer that the PUB and the city are one, and we should be one and work. But this mayor finds a total different way of thinking, where PUB is the only place I can people listen, because at the city I can't get it done. And that's the bottom line with this mayor. So he would be more apt to go and slam our financial advisor when he's the one, our financial advisor came up and thought of this to help the city out. So to say PUB is hurting bad, I don't think none of us would have put jeopardy in PUB. It wouldn't jeopardize PUB's financial portfolio at all.
The numbers speak for themselves. We have a literal shortfall of 1.8 million. Well, wait a second. And the other thing is, if we if we don't take a proactive approach, the problem's going to be here tomorrow. Go ahead.
Last year, the PUB issued 77 million worth of debt. You're aware. Mr. Gonzalez, the PUB cannot issue debt, right?
It has to be approved by this board.
Okay, and you're aware that in the last debt that they financed in a variable interest. I addressed Mr. Hinojosa concerning that matter. They also do the brokering for the BISD. They also sold it in variable interest. This is the highest interest. This is why we have this problem in the economy, because that creates greed and corruption. And you're aware of that, sir. Now, Mr. Hinojosa is well aware, and you're aware that in that loan, there was a report that was submitted to Standard & Poor's, Fitch, and Moody. And there it specifies how that debt, because this is the first part of the debt that's going to accumulate to 265 million that the PUB is looking for. And there you have to explain to Standard & Poor's, etc., that you're going to have rate increases up to 2024. I have a copy of that instrument. I'm sure you have that copy also, where this is addressed, you know, and I just questioned, you know, the variable interest, and I questioned Mr. Hinojosa about it. He told me it was fixed. When I called him, he said, well, you were right, Mr. Reese. I questioned the BISD also, because they handle also the BISD 135 million debt. This increases the debt enormously. If you know about interest, it increases it enormously. Am I correct, Mr. Gonzalez? Compared to fixed rate?
Well, they issue what different types of debt, which is different from. That's why they go with a variable rate.
Okay, because you're aware also, sir, that when they went to New York and things like that, you were referring to this right now, that we got a good rating by Standard & Poor's and all these three, because we explained to the commission, to the citizens, that we had to buy an insurance for $1 million, and that gave you a 1% interest that was written in the newspaper by Emma Trevino. And when the meltdown came, the company that we paid that $1 million to, you know what happened? Collapsed.
Thank you.
Now who's protecting?
I just wish Mr. Hinojosa would give away his money, $3 million, as eager as he's away to give PUB's money.
PUB is the city. PUB is the city, Mayor. Get it through your thick head.
Sustained by ratepayers.
Mr. Mayor, please.
Nah, you're not gonna get it. Don't get it.
Work together, work together between you and the PUB. You're getting $3 million.
We did.
And you might not get it next year. I know that. And we don't know what's going to happen next year. So please, work together, plan ahead as to what projects you're going to embark in and what projects you cannot do this year. Maybe, 1 penny, Honorable Mayor, that I respect you. 1 penny might do it. If that can be put through, 1 penny at the county, they agreed on 1 penny. They wanted 3. They went down to 1. I don't know how they do it. As far as you people tell me about statistics, I could not get my doctorate degree in my doctorate degree because of statistics. For me, it's 0. Tell me about education. Tell me how to be aggressive, how to be positive, how to get up and move and do something. I'll do it. Statistics is 0 for me. See if you can work with 1 penny and work together with PUB. I'll be going to PUB just to tell them on behalf of you that we want to
You don't need
thank
to speak for me. I can speak for myself.
Okay. But for the rest of the board, I'll go there and thank them because they gave you, the $3 million.
Thank you, Dag.
Thank you.
This is an action item. Anybody want to say anything more, or can I have a motion? Can I have a motion?
I'd like to move that we keep the tax rate with no change at .65 and not, what? Number 2. And adopt the fiscal,
Well, first you adopt the budget.
no.
Yes.
Well, I want to accept the budget,
Yeah,
knowing with the
Representative?
.65
Yeah.
and no tax increase.
Yeah, the budget obviously has to have the tax rate.
Yeah. We can't accept the budget without
So
the tax rate we're going to use.
there are some changes to the budget. We're going to include the additional $3 million, one-time $3 million from the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. And you need to, obviously, before you approve the budget, you need to tell us what is the tax rate that you would
He just said that.
recommend. So in your, but that's just one.
Motion
My
was
motion was to
one-
recommend the same tax rate at .65.
And you all need to obviously vote on that
and to
resolution.
adopt the 2010 fiscal year.
He wants to adopt the budget based on the tax rate that is now.
Yeah.
And Pete, that would be .654189.
Put it up there.
No, it's,
Put it up there, please.
you want to, it's going to be the effective tax rate. That's what it's going to be, which includes a zero tax increase. Yeah, I was hoping for more, but that's okay. The tax rate that is being proposed is the 65.4189, or equaling the effective tax rate, which gives you a zero tax increase.
I move that we adopt that budget with that tax, the same tax rate.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Are we going to have to approve another budget with this $3 million?
No,
No other adjustment?
no,
That's
the,
what you're gonna
I
answer?
guess the adjustment would be that for us to include in the budget that has, it's going to be an amended,
Yeah.
in a sense. Well, not an amended, because it's going to, finally it's going to be approved tonight by adding the $3 million. So what we'll do is we go ahead and adjust it to give us the tax rate of 65 cents, which would be this. This is the general fund. You have $1,644,912. Then you have to include the $3 million, so that's going to be, reduce the deficit by the additional $3 million. So that we can make a change,
Okay, I understand.
and that's the budget that can be adopted or filed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've lost approximately about $4 million by not taking corrective action in 2007 or 2006. But that's the wish of the commission. Next year, I guess we'll worry about it then. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I say no, based on the fact that we have no plan to deal with the reality that we have a shortfall, based on principle. Thank you. Okay,
Next item.
the next item.
Item 3, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 2009-1512 to levy ad valorem taxes for the tax year 2009 for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Brownsville, Texas, for fiscal year 2010, providing for the interest and sinking fund for general obligation bonds of the city of Brownsville, Texas for fiscal year 2010.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, the ordinance that you have in your packet is with the 67 cents. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and hand this over to the City Secretary with the tax rate of 65.4189. Besides the tax rate that this ordinance says, we also have a discount for those property owners that pay their property taxes early. This ordinance also allows a 3% discount for those taxpayers that pay their property taxes in October, a 2% in November, and a 1% in December.
Okay, this is an action item. Can we have an action item?
And this is a first reading. Tomorrow night, we'll have the second
Can I
reading.
have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Camarillo. Can I have a second? Second by Commissioner Atkinson.
To close public.
No, close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This is an action item.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Camarillo, second by Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 4.
Item 4, consideration and action regarding a contract between the City of Brownsville and the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
I move to adopt the contract that was negotiated between the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau and the City of Brownsville.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Atkinson and then by Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion?
Yes. I have some concerns and questions. Regarding Section 2, where it says an annual fee in the amount of $525,000, considering that hot revenues change annually, we may have less money next year, subsequent years. How are we going to adjust that? Mr. Kabler.
I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead. What was the
This
question?
has to do with Section 2A, $525,000 to be given to the CVB annually. What happens if hot revenues go down in subsequent years? Will that be adjusted? Can it be adjusted?
Yes, yes. I think
Because it doesn't state such.
there's language within the contract that identifies that, or it can be added, that identifies the fact that depending on what hot money revenue budget is for that year, we can make adjustments to that.
It's kind of like a fixed rate, right? Because if we have good years, then it could probably go up.
Correct.
If it would be 600-700, but if we put 540,000, then that's more like a fixed rate, right, Mr. Reese?
Is there anything else, Commissioner?
Yes. On term limits under Section 15, actually on the BCBB Board of Directors, there's no language to stipulate term limits. So we could have some board members serve for several years, and as we all know, it's always good to change that up a bit.
Obviously, they increased our board members to 5.
Correct.
So we can identify term limits for that.
But only term limits for our appointees, not term
Right.
limits for the entire board.
They didn't, I negotiated, so they don't want to, they don't want that issue in their 6 appointees. The only thing that I could get in that was that they would appoint a hotelier as one of their appointees. But
So
they
we could
did
have
not, they did not
directors.
want to discuss the issue of term limits.
So we could potentially have directors serve perpetually and not be removed. We can have directors be on
their
there for
part.
more than.
On their part, yes.
I understand there are directors on there now that have served longer than 8 years.
That's correct. Now,
Charlotte,
if you want me to take this back to them and,
you know, I don't agree. I don't think that, you know, individuals should be there forever, because none of us are here forever. And to be a productive board, you know, you just can't be vote amongst yourselves or within the organization, and then, you know, you decide when you want to leave. You know, and that's not something I support at all, because again, I think we're not helping the problem. I think we're just doing the same old thing. And I think that board and CBB needs to understand that, because that's a problem. I mean, for me, and I think, you know, for some of the members of the commission.
that was discussed with them with priority. The idea of maybe even having a term, a 3-year, 3 appointees, that would give them almost 9 years, or would give them 9 years, almost a decade. If we go by term limits and say the term limits are, they can only be appointed 3 times. But that was discussed with them at length. And
So I guess
obviously,
the
this
question
is
whether we
a work.
accept that, or you want to go back and renegotiate, or?
Let me ask a question. On the zoo board, how long have those members been on? We give a lot of money to the zoo. You keep them on there 3 years? None of them get off the board, or they do get off the board.
They serve 2 3-year terms, but then they go off the board. They can become inactive, they can't be go back on the board or ask to come back to the board. They're not term limits.
I mean, Commissioner, to not have term limits on a board
Well, if you
does
want-
not make any
if you
sense. I
wanna
mean, I
amend
think
it,
if you
can
really.
amend it, I don't care.
Well, okay, well, I think, you know, we need to amend your motion to include that, because again, I don't see us moving forward
Well, I
without.
don't think that we, not to interrupt, but I don't think that we can dictate what an independent board does as far as its
Exactly.
term limits. Now, I'm not saying that we can't say, our membership has limits because we're assigning our members, but we don't have the authority to go tell someone else, this is how you have to run your board.
It's a non-profit organization.
But we do have the authority to make the recommendation, and if they choose not to take it, we have the authority to not
correct.
approve the contract.
That's correct.
We have, and as.
I worked out a working contract. You tell us, you tell me what you want me to go back with.
Let them finish talking.
They're a 501c designated. They do their own appointments. We have no authority to tell them that you're going to have this and this. Now, we can obviously say no to the contract, but we have no authority to go tell them, these are your bylaws, this is what you're going to change.
From the very beginning.
Right.
No, but Mr. Saucy did say, when we discussed this the first time, that yes, we don't have any authority, but if they wish to maintain
was made
or
very
retain
clear.
our contract,
Correct.
then they have to go by these recommendations.
Correct.
That was made clear from day one.
Correct.
So, I mean, my problem is this. The city issued a resolution. This is the terms that we want.
Who
This
wants?
is
Who wants?
The commission.
Who?
The commission approved the resolution.
No. No,
I understand the commission approved the
didn't
resolution
approve
here.
that resolution.
Wait a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Zamora. The city adopted a resolution for him to go negotiate.
Okay, the resolution was not approved by the city commission. However, Commissioner Troyani in the subsequent agenda item said that we can enter into contract negotiations if
Okay, I thought it was
they
approved.
accept the items in the previous
So
agenda
this
item.
is the negotiated contract
Oh,
that
you
the
said
city,
some of.
the city staff recommend this or
He
not?
said some of the
So this is what
sections of your
can I-
resolution.
No, that's not correct.
Well, that's what I heard.
So this is what you've done by visiting with the
Mhm.
Brownsville Business Convention Bureau, and now this is what you have to bring to us.
My intention was to work out a working contract based on both sides and what we negotiated, present it to you long before this agenda. You all call me and tell me what you need, what you feel you need to be changed, or we can do it now. And the next thing is ultimatum. I go and tell them, this is what the commission is requesting, say yes or no, and if it's no, well, we depart our ways. So that's what I'm asking for today.
Okay, I have some additional concerns, Mayor, if I can proceed. Section 15C, it doesn't stipulate who appoints the ex officio members.
Well, that's our mistake, and that'll be us.
Okay,
Or, I'm sorry, you, the commission.
thank you. And then section 16, I'd like to maybe recommend some language concerning quarterly reports to the city commission, before the city commission. There was some discussion on that in a prior meeting
It's
about having that.
within the contract that they do quarterly reports to the commission, and
Which
also a
part?
yearly report to the commission.
Yearly report, it is, I must have missed
Yeah,
it.
it's-
Commissioner Zamora, that's in Section 1AD. It talks about quarterly reports to the commission, and it also talks about an annually report of a marketing and budget plan.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
And Mark,
That,
hold on,
And I
and
have
Mark,
one more.
Mark, and that budget, Mark, the budget plan and the marketing plan, all that gets done October 1st, right? As included in the, okay.
And I have one more thing to say. I'd also like to include some language, if it's not already there, that the CVB not enter into any contracts that extend beyond their contract, their 3 years. Because that was a concern now, that we couldn't give the contract to someone else because they had entered into contract negotiations or buys, media buys, that go beyond the scope of their one-year contract.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Okay?
Anything else? Anything else?
Yeah,
Commissioner?
yeah, I'd like to, this contract, it seems like there's been personal vendetta on this contract. I see where the city wants to go with this, and I'm just not, are we gonna send it back and it's gonna be another 2-3 months before we negotiate, or we're gonna go out for bids, or what are we gonna do? What have they done wrong for you to I thought we were already putting limits on them and we're requesting quarterly reports.
That's
If
not
we're
what they
showing
look
good gesture to manage them a little better, why are we gonna add all these other things? Which the city wrote out this contract with the Brownsville Convention Visitors Bureau. Why are we gonna go against what the city negotiated with the Brownsville Convention. What have they done wrong? I mean, what is it? What is it that you don't like about them?
Charlie, well, one quick note, what's missing from here is the 6 individuals that we appoint, there's no term limits, okay? So,
Well,
let's
Good
support
point.
that. I mean,
That's something that's our prerogative. So that's why it's not in here. We just appoint 5 people. Now, we can establish
as long as we
a
can do
bylaws
that.
the city secretary will have as to who we're gonna appoint. That can come as an amendment to this.
Okay.
I don't think all they said was you can have 5 appointees. Who they are and all that is up to us.
Charlie, you've gone through the contract with Mr. Saucy, and you feel comfortable with the contract?
Yes, we copied really the contract that the Culture Affairs had. We condensed it and then included our negotiations with the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it was reviewed by Mark and I, and in fact, we discussed this with their chair and things like that. So it was prepared in a way that we felt.
How much did we cut their budget?
And we've got 2 additional appointees, correct? So we're up to 5 appointees in total?
There's 11 voting members. Yes, we got 5, they got 6.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Mr. Saucy's recommendation concerning the contract.
On the 2 ex-officials, you said?
Commissioner, I looked at the contract, and obviously there's a difference between issues that are issues of policy and issues that are issues of law. I mean, it's up to this commission to decide questions of policy. I think the contract is good and is in the interest of the city. I do think that incorporating your suggestion about that the Contract and Visitors Bureau not enter into any contract beyond the 3-year term of this contract would be something that would be helpful and prevent some of the problems that we had this year. There was some funding concerns in terms of funding being reduced and the commitments the CVB had made extending beyond the term. So there were some existing obligations.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, these are helpful recommendations. It's not a personal vendetta. It's a matter of setting the bar at a higher standard. We had a one-page contract with the CVB that consisted of spending $800,000 of hotel motel funds. So I just wanted to clarify to everyone, it wasn't a matter of me or anyone else on the city commission establishing or trying to create a personal vendetta. It was a matter of setting standards that should have been there to begin with.
Commissioners, more actually, this contract requires annual reporting, quarterly reporting, and monthly reporting to the city secretary. It also gives the city commission, in the event that the Convention and Visitors Bureau failed to comply with either their marketing plan or failed to comply with the Texas tax code in terms of application of the funds, it would provide for a way for the city commission, if at that time, if it deemed that they weren't doing what the commission wanted, to terminate the contract after giving the CVB notice and an opportunity to cure that defect. So this contract will actually protect the city in a way that has never been the case before.
Exactly.
And what's the term of notice?
Excuse me, Commissioner Gowan?
The notice term?
Yeah, 30 days.
Commissioner Gowan?
Mr. Saucy, what are your thoughts about the term limits? It seems accountable to me that they have term limits.
The issue of term limits is one that's fairly typical in corporations. Normally in corporations where you have directors which are appointing themselves, you would want to have term limits. In this case, you have a fairly small pool of people that are involved in the hotel and service industry. So I would recommend that the term limitations be fairly long or longer than typical, which would be 3 consecutive 3-year terms of office. I think that would be my recommendation. So if someone has served more than 2 terms of office, they could not be reappointed to a 3rd consecutive term.
The zoo has 2 3-year terms.
Yeah, it is.
But Mark, you're just talking about the members that we can appoint, not
No.
not the current members, or are you talking about the current members as it is?
Well, first of all,
because they say that, hey, we can't do that because it's its own corporation. So which one is it?
Well,
I was asking about
I would,
all of
I don't think you can tell someone and say, you have to impose
But the
term limits.
commissioner's right, you can stipulate it.
You can however, you can stipulate it as a term of the deal. I would simply say that in order for this contract to be negotiated, we would ask that they impose some reasonable term limits, which I think would be 3 consecutive 3-year terms. That would let people serve up to 9 years of office on the board. I can't imagine why that would be an issue. Nearly a decade in service.
I'd like to hear from Bean if I can. I know he came up. Did you want to say something or? Go ahead.
Commissioners, Mayor, my name is Mariano Ayala, President and CEO of the Convention Visitors Bureau. The term limit y'all are speaking about, y'all going to have 5 appointees. If that's what you all wish, maybe these 5 appointees can head in that direction. But as of right now, it stands as it is, and I would need to go back to the board. And but we've worked very hard, also with Mr. Saucy, and we've gone back and forth about 5 times for several hours. And a lot of Resolution 14 have been incorporated into this contract without any ill feelings or personal vendetta or what have you. We understand what the wishes of the commission is, and we feel that that's a good direction. And it would sadden me to see this bogged down over a term on a board that is self-standing, you know. I think we can go back and revisit it, but to stop this opportunity to go forward over something like this is kind of worrisome right now. But I think we've done very well. We've gone back and forth, we negotiated, and each gave a lot. I think we've come up with a very good contract that's going to protect the city in many ways. It's going to show what we've done in the past, what we're doing. I don't feel that it's proving anything because we've done it. So you're not asking us for anything we haven't done, so we're fine with it. But I just think we need to go forward and not let something as term limits stop this progress. I think Brownsville needs to start marketing on a positive note. I think we need to start right now.
Let me ask you something, Bean.
Yes, sir.
How would the shortfall from 800,000 to 525,000, what are you gonna have to do to make up for that loss of revenue?
Make up? We can't make up. We don't have.
How are you gonna
We don't fundraise. We don't fundraise.
Why can't you?
Sponsorships, you can with sponsorships.
Well, anyway, we'll probably have to cut out marketing and advertising.
You're gonna have to cut out marketing and advertising?
Well, we're budgeted, we went from 1.3 million to 853. That's where we're at right now. So we would have to go back and revisit. I've already cut staff from 9.5 to 4.5, but it's something we'll visit. We'll come up with the best game plan.
Bean, I would think you need to do that with the full board, right? I mean, obviously it's,
Sure.
you know, staff. I would think you'd have to do that with the full board to get their assistance on that.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, and Bean, my only real issue is, you know, not against anyone, you know, but the city is funding CVB. And it's great to have individuals that are volunteering in supporting, you know, the efforts and the functions of the organization. But again, it's a city that's funding it.
Yes,
and
sir.
so they need to know that. And they should understand that, you know, we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we do have a group in place to market and promote the city and,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
as best as possible. And so therefore we want to see some changes. I think
Yes, sir.
all of us do positive changes, make sure individuals are in there that, you know, have some background, because I think that's important in any organization. But the whole issue that there's a select group that, you know, is going to revolve around itself, that's, you know, that's an issue.
Anyone else? Thank you.
I would just like to add that the CAC, when they initially recommended 0 funding, I think I was the first person to call you to say, what can we do to restore funding to the CVB? Because I know how important it is to have a CVB in a city.
Okay.
All I want to add.
Okay, so what is going to be?
Mayor, just one more question. And the way this stands, which is a 3-year contract, Charlie,
Yes, sir.
CVB after 3 years, they won't be going back to CAC, correct? This is always going to be an in-house deal that the city, you make, well, comes before the city commission to make a decision on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So what's the wishes of the commission? The recommendations or no recommendations?
Well, I think there are some adjustments.
Wait a second, one at a time.
You got a motion in a second.
Right.
There were some adjustments that even Mr. Saucy thought that we should include in the contract, but I know.
There's a motion, okay, and there's a second. Discussion was held.
Motion, can I do a motion to amend?
I do a motion to amend.
I make a motion that we amend the contract with the recommendations that were brought forth today
Which one? All of
concerning
them?
term limit, can I finish? Concerning term limits and not entering into contract negotiations beyond the scope of the 3-year contract. Now, what we need to decide on is if the city commission wants to impose the term limits with the entire board or just with our appointees.
So we have an amendment to the motion. Can I have a second?
Wait a minute, how does?
Okay, we have a second. We got to vote on that first. Any discussion?
Why? Because we had a first and a second.
We had a first and a second.
But she has a right to
She can't
amend the
amend it
motion.
if I have to agree to it. She's
We
amending my
have to
motion.
vote
I think
on
it's
the
her motion,
amendment.
she can make her motion.
What, my motion was first.
But I can motion to
She made a
amend.
motion to amend.
Well, I'll
This
make a motion to amend on that. When does it end? When, shouldn't I get my motion first?
I'm just telling you what the rules say.
Okay.
Do it if you want.
Any further discussion on the amendment there? No discussion on the amendment. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Wait, to do, what are we amending?
She just said term
The
limits.
term limits, and
Okay.
not to
Any
exceed
other-
3 years on the contract.
And not to exceed 3 years, enter into contracts, marketing contracts. or anything.
whether on the whole board or just your.
The whole board.
She
also
also
said
said the appointee. Clarify that now?
I said it was up to the city commission if they wanted to impose that upon the entire board or appointees. And also on who appoints the ex officios. That was also something that needed to be clarified.
Okay, but you need to be specific in your amendment.
That's my amendment, that they take it back to,
That's not what you said in your amendment.
The commission appointed Commissioner Atkinson to the board already. And if you notice and see, it says appoints the commissioner and 2 ex officials. So if we've already appointed a commissioner and it was done by the commission, obviously the ex officials will also be appointed by the commission.
And I had a problem with the marketing director from South Padre Island Airport who is on the board for South Padre Island Convention and Visitors Bureau. Why should he be on our board when he sits on the board at SBI and he wears the South Padre Island pin without wearing a Brownsville pin? I have a big problem with that. I've told Larry Brown many times.
That's not part of this, so.
Well, you know,
That
he
has
shouldn't
nothing to
be
do with
there.
this.
Well,
No, it's not part of
Okay.
it.
doesn't matter.
So your amendment is,
bring
your amendment is term limits, but it's up to the commission as whether it's on the
What
appointments
what
or
ex
all the
officios?
board. Is that what you're saying?
that's correct.
Okay. And that the contracts that the CBB enter not exceed.
Not exceed the 3-year,
term.
contract.
Okay, term. Okay, we have an amendment and a second. All in favor for the
Aye.
amendment? Aye.
Aye.
So how many, we got 4 ayes, so that's accepted. Okay? Then we have a motion by,
For clarification, who were the nays, please?
the nay
Who
was
were the nays?
Commissioner Longoria, Commissioner Atkinson, Commissioner Triana, how are you voting?
I'll vote aye.
So you got 5 ayes for the amendment,
2 nays?
2 nays.
But can you clarify the term limits issue, was that carried over to the whole board, or is that just for our appointments?
That's confusing.
Oh, for the whole board, then
The
I'll
whole
vote nay.
board.
If it's just for ours, then I'll vote aye.
Okay,
I thought her amendment said that that piece was up to the commission.
that's
Right.
what,
That's a
that's what
separate
she
vote.
said?
That's a separate vote.
Well,
This is
Then if
just to establish
if
term
that-
limits, but we didn't say.
If that portion is not in it, then I'll vote aye.
Okay,
That portion's not in it, right?
so it wasn't in it.
Now now we need to amend his motion, unless you want to withdraw it. Commissioner Atkinson?
I want to keep my motion.
Okay, with the amendment. it
I want
goes.
to vote on
No,
Amendment
the
passed.
amendment was passed,
It was
passed
already passed.
to accept to
But we
to
didn't
your
know-
motion.
The
He didn't
contract has
know
been
what-
accepted. The
Okay.
contract has been accepted. There are we're going
The
to vote on the
amendment.
issue of term limits. They're only going to be able to contract for the term of our contract, and then we're going to appoint the two ex officios. I think that's about it.
Well, out of there's 2 or 3 ex officials?
Two.
Two.
So vote
Because
on
one is a
That
commission,
was already-
which you
I was
sit
just
on. It's
voted
only
Well,
two.
you're on it, so we need 2 more,
Oh, okay,
but that would be next time.
okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, you got 2 nays, you voted aye, you got 5 ayes, and 2 nays. Okay?
Thank
Did you get that, City Secretary?
Yes, I believe so.
Commissioner Longoria? And Commissioner?
Your contract was renewed.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is the contract was renewed, but Commissioner Zamora's motion was for term limits and an amount to be determined by the commission. So I think that would require another motion and another debate on the issue of the specific term limits in this contract.
Is that at
Then
another
on the
meeting, Mark, or is
specific-
that now?
Okay,
I
then on the
mean,
Can we
what
do
the
that?
commission is voting on in terms of term limits.
On the issue of term limits, I would vote that we impose a 2-term limit on our appointees and allow the BCBB to come up with their own, because we don't have authority over that board.
Second.
Is that 2 3-year term limits?
2 3-year term limits for our appointees.
We got a motion and a second, and any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay,
Who is nay besides Commissioner Zamora?
We got nay. Commissioner Camarillo, you voted,
I voted for it.
you voted for it, so it passed with no term limits for them. Okay, we have public comments, no? I can't see.
Public comments?
What's your first name? Leticia, I'm sorry. Letty? The ink barely went through. Letty? Ms. Garzoria, I'm sorry. Then Dag, and Fernando Reese, and then Mr. Robert Oreste. Now, Letty, this is the appropriate time,
Okay,
and we welcome you.
thank you. Okay, you've already heard the first part of it.
You do have 3 minutes.
My issue today is that we have 3 major issues that perpetually afflict our community. The latter of this is disease. These 3 issues have become 3 Goliaths which we must conquer. We as a community would like to work with this commission to attack these mammoth giants. We ask that you reprioritize your efforts, not towards, again, building beautiful arches with colorful bougainvilleas, or the debt of an event center, which is losing money to the tune of almost $2 million, nor building more parks, which cannot be supervised, but rather become a creative force for this community. I would like to see that instead of shaking hands with prospective sister cities in Mexico, start building collateral ties in Washington, D.C. Some suggestions to that end might be the following. Number 1, start shaking hands with people in Washington, D.C., make them aware of our border issues, procure, inquire, investigate as to how we can negotiate government contracts so as to create industry to our communities. In 1997, we lost around 1,000 jobs, and a few years later, we lost another 1,000 jobs. With government contracts, we could be able to bring jobs to this area to stimulate this economy. A second suggestion is in the spirit of entrepreneurship, use city property to start a new cemetery. The current cemetery almost running out of spaces to the present. The average funeral, as you would know, would cost more or less $5,000, almost to the point of $1 million if you're talking about private mausoleums. With this need impending in our community, the cemetery that now exists is running out of spaces. We as a community in creating and being proactive, okay, would like to see that this commission adopts something of being proactive and seeing that the community's needs are met. We need new choices, we need new avenues, we need creative thinking, we need competitive rates, and to provide a stimulus to our community. We talk about debt, we talk about taxes, we talk about everything, but we don't talk about stimulating. We need to stimulate. My third suggestion is something that is close to my heart, Washington Park. I believe we can use this park year-round. It is centrally located. It would be perfect for this project of cultural stimulation. Use Washington Park year-round, promoting live concerts, city-sponsored vendors.
Okay, I'm sorry, Letty, the time is up.
Okay, that's fine. And you've heard the last of what I had.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's not for me.
Fernando Ruiz.
Say something nice.
Is Robert Aresti still here?
Mayor, Commissioners, Fernando Ruiz. I want to thank you all for all the efforts that you're putting behind the budget. And you know, I'm so happy because, you know, I used to come to the meetings since a long time ago, and I would just hear say nothing. People would not debate, they would not discuss. This is a commission meeting in its form, where we have inputs from the public and from the commissioners and from the financial advisors and from everybody that makes this complex community. This is government at work. And I know you're away from your families, and I understand all these things. And you know, I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for the people of Brownsville, that we understand where you stand, and we also need to know that you know where we stand, because we have to work as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Dick. What size of shoe do you wear? What size of shoe do you wear? 7?
The motion was confusing.
Me corto los dedos. Me corto los dedos porque me quedan los pinchos.
Thanks. Merece el hombre lo que tienen ustedes. Lo merece.